Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and we are live on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. It has been a jam-packed, solid day at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and I just got a lot to talk about tonight. So hope you guys are doing good. We're back on social media tonight. We're gonna try it. The last two nights, we've kind of had some fuzzy stuff going on social media. I think we're in good shape with the radio. We got some new setups. We're trying to get all the sound right. I've only got, what day is it? It's the 22nd. So I only got like 9 days left. And then we've been doing this for 1 year. And you would think at 1 year we'd have it all worked out. But we haven't, but I'm hoping in the next 9 days we get it all worked out, that we're solid, we're good to go. Everybody can hear us, everybody can see us. Our video and our audio match up. I hope that's something I've been working on for a whole year. But that's life. That's the way it goes. But I hope we got it. So Tuesday night we tried to do a show on genetics with Dr. Bruce Tipton, and so I want Bruce Lipton, whatever his name is. I tried to do a show about him on Tuesday, and it didn't show up. When I went back and watched it afterwards, it didn't show up and on our social media, and so we may end up. We're going to try to do that show again tomorrow night, and we'll see how that works out. So I want to go back. I want to go back over the genetics and the epigenetics that we had for on Tuesday. Everybody, just hold on right where you are. Just when I said we got all the things worked out, doesn't look like we got all the kinks worked out after all. So it's a mess. But we're going to go back. We're going to do tomorrow night's show. I'm going to try it again to do that epigenetics talk. So you guys that heard it on Tuesday and it didn't look too good on social media, we're going to redo it tomorrow night. You guys that listened to the show last night on the radio, you got to hear some of it, and we talked about it a little bit, and so, but we'll carry that forward to tomorrow night's show. But I wanted to spend tonight because today was one of those days in the office that I just kept hearing this. I just kept hearing the same things. If I could get my entire patient base to watch this show, they might get it. But it's just common stuff it's just, there's so many things out there that are just common things that I don't think we think about, and I think we deal with as a society on a daily basis. And there's just sentence after sentence after sentence that I hear that just makes me like, okay, well, that's not true. And that's not true. And well, maybe we should think about that this way or whatever. So I got a list of them here. I got a list of thoughts of things that happened with patients today and this week, things that I thought of this week that just go round and round and round and round that we talk about. And I think it's a good idea. I got some really good feedback from one of our listeners last night that listens to us on the radio, and I love her to death. I got to take care of her for a while. She's a sweet lady, and she sent me a really sweet text last night after the show, and talked about just thank you for explaining things in a way that we can understand them. And I think it really helps. I think it helps to have real life real life clinical experiences to share to help people understand things. And so that's what the show is tonight. The show is another one of those. We do these quite often, and a lot of the same subjects. We talk about a lot of the same subjects, um, but let's just get into it, because we probably will eat. We'll probably take up this entire show doing it this way. So I'm just gonna try it. I hope you guys get something out of it. I hope you guys on the radio appreciate it, and maybe we can make some sense out of how all this is working. So one of the questions that I had today, one of the conversations that I had today, was about cholesterol. And I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not treating your cholesterol or your high cholesterol or your low cholesterol or any of your other cholesterol problems. But I wanted to go over one more time I just wanted to go over with you the way that I understand cholesterol. And you might just take this and just take some of these questions to your medical doctor and say, "Doc, is this how it works? And what can we do about it?" Right? Because the person came to me and they're like, "Hey, um, what am I supposed to do? My cholesterol is 278. It's the total cholesterol is 278." And so I'm like, "Okay, well," and she's like, "So what can I do? What can I do to get it down below 200?" Okay, let's just stop right there. And let's just talk about, first of all, who said 278 was bad? Well, my medical doctor said 278 was bad. And so its total is 278. And I said, "Well, okay. Now, let's listen to what Dr. Lustig says, because he's the head of endocrinology and metabolism at the University of California at San Francisco, and he's one of the most internationally known people and when it comes to metabolic syndromes and metabolic problems and all that type of stuff, right? And you can go to therockhealthandwellness.com, you can click on videos, and you can listen to Dr. Lustig break down, or you could just simply go to YouTube. You could go to YouTube and search Sugar the Bitter Truth. And let's just start with what Dr. Lustig would say about this. And I think, me personally, I think Dr. Lustig knows what he's talking about. So I'm going to listen to Dr. Lustig and say, "Okay, what are you saying?" And the first thing he's going to say is, "All right, your cholesterol is 278. So what are the components of your cholesterol?" And the first thing we're going to want to ask is, what are your triglycerides? What's your triglyceride level? And below 150, anywhere in the range below 150 is considered good, all right? But in this particular case, the triglycerides are 85. So then the next question is going to be, what are the HDLs? And the HDLs, in this particular case, are 77. Now, anything over 40 and 50 in triglycerides, or 50 and 60 in males and females, but I know it's 60 for sure. Anything over 60 is considered protective when it comes to HDLs. So, according to Dr. Lustig, there are two types of LDLs. There are small, dense LDLs, and there are large, buoyant. So there are large, buoyant LDLs, and there are very small, dense LDLs. And he says the way that you learn which one of your LDLs you have, and the calculated LDL in this particular case is 182, and it's considered high, okay? But what Dr. Lustig is going to say is, if you have low triglycerides and high HDLs, then you have large, buoyant LDLs, and they just float around and they don't do anything. They just float like big beach balls in your bloodstream, and they don't cause any problems. Okay? If you have high triglycerides and low HDL, now you have the bad LDL, and they can create plaquing and cardiovascular disease and heart disease. Now, that comes right off of Sugar the Bitter Truth. That was a lecture, a 90-minute lecture given by Dr. Lustig that I've had on my website since 2009. Okay? And we've talked about this multiple times on the radio, right? So the first thing is we're going to freak out, and we're going to get the recommendation from the medical doctor was that she needs to start taking Crestor. Now, I don't have anything to do with this conversation. I don't have anything to do with it one way or the other. I'm not involved in that whatsoever. She's just talking to me about how can she get healthy, right? She came to me to ask me, how do I get healthy? Because my cholesterol is high, and my doctor wants to put me on Crestor. And I'm like, well, let's break it down. Which one of those do you have? What are your numbers? And those are the numbers. So according to what I understand, we've got some large buoyant LDLs. We're not in that bad a shape in the first place, right? Okay. But the second thing that I understand, and the way it's been explained to me, is, and this has a lot to do with my good friend Dr. Fraley in Ruidoso, and Dr. Fraley is pretty dang smart, and he explained it to me this way, that cholesterol is a patch. Cholesterol is a patch that our body uses to patch holes in our blood vessels, and mostly in our intestinal tract, but also in our peripheral vascular system as well. So we got a bunch of holes. We got a bunch of holes out there in our blood vessels, and we're knocking holes in our blood vessels, and we got to patch them up. And so, how does that work? Well, just imagine, and the way that I've explained it lots of times is just imagine that whenever it rains in Lubbock, we get a bunch of potholes in the street. And the guys that work for the city have to put a bunch of asphalt in their trucks, and they have to drive their trucks out to the city, and they have to patch up all these holes, right? So we gotta get from the liver that makes the cholesterol. We got to get that cholesterol out into the bloodstream, and we're going to take that cholesterol and we're going to move it out into the bloodstream, and we're going to patch up all these little holes so that we don't bleed to death. Okay? And so if we have lots of damage to our blood vessels, we're going to need to increase our cholesterol in order to make sure that we can patch all those holes, right? And then after we're done, and that LDL is going to carry that out there. That's where your LDL and your triglycerides get involved. But that LDL is going to carry that cholesterol, and it's going to make those patches, okay? But then after we're done, the liver doesn't want to waste any of that cholesterol, so it's going to say, hey, look, I need some HDL. I need a few of you HDLs to go out there and find me some of that patch. So it sends out the HDLs. But if it's got patch all over town, if there's asphalt all over town, I can send out one or two guys out there. I can send out one or two guys, and they can say, oh, shoot, man, I can come back. I'll bring you a bunch of that patch back. Because they'll be able to find it all over town. So I don't need very many HDLs out there. So if in this scenario where I have lots of damage to my blood vessels, what I'm going to end up with is I'm going to end up with high levels of triglycerides and low levels of HDL. And that means that is bad. That's not good. We don't want that. We don't want high triglycerides and low HDLs. So what we want is exactly the opposite of that. We don't want any HD. We want high levels of HDL. So if we don't have any holes in our blood vessels, and we're not causing any damage to our blood vessels, and when I was having this conversation today in the office, she immediately said to me, uh, what causes holes in the blood vessels? And I was like, yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? So what causes holes in the blood vessels, I'm going to keep that as a secret for just a minute. But if we don't have very many holes in the blood vessels, then what we get is we get very little triglycerides and LDLs. We don't need any, we don't have to have very much carrier out there into the bloodstream to patch up any holes. But then when the liver wants us to go find any extra cholesterol, it'll send every one of us. It'll get all the HDLs in the whole compartment, in the whole country. Everybody in the county, everybody in the city, everybody that's involved with an HDL, you guys get out there and find that extra patch. You go out there and find that extra cholesterol. And when that happens, then the HDLs are going to go up. So our triglycerides went down and our HDLs went up. And that's what we want. We want low triglycerides and high HDLs. And if we have that, then we have the large buoyant LDLs. So the question becomes, how do I get damage to the blood vessel? And I get damage to the blood vessel by sugar. And there we go. And so that's what caused us, that is what takes us out and causes us problems. So if you want to lower your cholesterol, stop eating sugar. And you say, well, it's what the conversation was, well, I have a sweet tooth. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't have a sweet tooth. What you have is you have a brain chemistry issue that's addicted to sugar. That's what you have. It's not a sweet tooth. It's a brain chemistry issue. And that's what we end up with going and looking for that sugar for. And so that's to me how you solve that particular problem. And we could get into that sugar thing again, and I do want to talk about that. But it looks to me, I'm going to take a break on the social media page. We're going to have to cut the social media part of this short. We're going to stay with you live on the radio, but it looks like I'm about to lose all the battery life on my camera tonight. And so it doesn't look like I'm going to get to carry this social media show any further. So I'll just carry it to here. We'll just restart social media tomorrow. You guys on the radio, stick with us, and we'll continue this conversation. But you guys from social media, we're going to have to call it a night, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow at 6.